You hate to walk in somewhere where you feel like you've arrived too early or people aren't ready for you. So I am ready, table set, ready to go well before people show up, just to have that very welcoming experience and being able to participate. I think another place people kind of lose the plot is if you haven't done the preparation in advance, you're gonna find yourself working the entire event and not spending time and enjoying people's company. I mean, it's just a bummer. You've put all this thought into an event, you wanna be able to enjoy it too, and people are gonna wanna spend that time with you.
Austin Community Capital. This show is a celebration of the spirit of Austin, Texas, honoring our past, engaging our present, and building our future together.
Although it's not the last time.
Megan, I'm so grateful to be having a conversation with you today. We know each other through the real estate world in Austin, but I feel like we're very like-minded in how we treat clients. And I'm excited to dig into some of that and some of what makes you tick. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Absolutely. Bring us to your origin story.
Oh my gosh.
Where did you come from? What was upbringing like?
Yeah, so I've been in Austin a very long time, but I actually grew up in the Midwest. So spent most of my childhood in Ohio, a very typical, happy childhood. But I like to say that I kind of really grew up in Austin. So I went to high school here, fell in love with the city. What's not to love? I mean, the energy and the people and just the variety, it was all very different than growing up in the Midwest, but I just fell in love with it. So moved to Austin in 2005, and then went to college, went back to the Midwest, went to Notre Dame, moved to Chicago, met my husband, and it was not long before it was his idea. I waited until it was his idea to come back. So that's kind of how I ended up here in Austin.
Okay, well, appreciate that timeline. Let's go back to that time you came to Austin and that high school time frame. What was life like? What was family like? What were some rhythms of community?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, moving halfway through your freshman year of high school is probably every kid's nightmare.
A little jarring socially.
So that was a little bit of a, I was super, super worried about that. But I feel like it was so much different of an experience than I expected. People were very kind and welcoming. I mean, it was very different than what I expected, but I've always been the type of person to sort of bop around friend groups. So it wasn't like I had one sort of set place where it was like, I don't know, cliquey or something like that. I've always sort of been friends with everyone. And I think that only sort of evolved further when I had to change schools in the middle of the year. So I kind of jumped right in, and my personality is very much, and this comes from my mom, is very much hosting and bringing people together. And so I was probably, I don't know, I couldn't have been like 6 weeks into it, and I was hosting parties at my house, having people over for movie nights, coming up with themes, and just really trying to connect and bring people together. So I think that's kind of been a through line from, childhood that I've carried through to today.
I love that. And I'm similar. I got to watch my mom in host mode, and that informed a lot of my passion for hosting. What were her host rhythms?
Yeah.
What was her thing?
I mean, it's true to this day. We'll always comment if we are spending the weekend at her house or they're hosting the holidays. There is no detail that is not considered, so much so that you don't even notice it's happening for you. You almost notice it more when you're having an experience where someone's missed a beat or hasn't thought of the thing. So by comparison, it's just everything is so seamless. So everything from, the way you feel when you walk in the door, the smells, what's cooking, it's already been prepared ahead of time so she can spend time with you. And so those are the notes that I've just always kind of subconsciously been taking and really, really like to put thought into now, so that people leave just feeling like, wow, that was such a cozy, comfy experience, and just kind of feel warm and fuzzy about it.
What you're describing, it's so amazing, and it's very rare, I think, at a personal level. Like, what you're talking about is the best practices of the best hotels in the world, the best restaurants in the world. But to have that when entering someone's home, it's so powerful and so welcoming. And I think there's something about a home environment that's, just quite unique. When you think of home environment, what comes to mind for you, or how do you describe home? Yeah.
Well, I have a personal definition and then kind of what I, expect other people think. But for me, I don't know if you're familiar with the Danish word hygge. That's like and I'm butchering, I am sure, the pronunciation, but that's very much sort of my home aesthetic and what I like to create for people. So the meaning of that word is basically the feeling of being like in a warm, cozy blanket with candles lit, drinking tea, and it's cold outside, right? Just that kind of community and warmth. And that's literally the meaning of it. And so that's my definition of home. And I like that because it can be created anywhere. You can sort of create that feeling, whether you're traveling or, at home in your kitchen. So there's something very kind of like ritualistic about it that I like. And not everyone has that same necessarily definition or aesthetic, right? If we're just talking about coziness, but that is like the feeling that I want people to feel, even if I'm, working with them as an interior designer or in real estate, just helping them find what that means for them is a big part of my job.
I love that. And some of the notes you hit on are make me think of, the approaching fall in Austin. Slowly temps are starting to dip down. And I'm like, man, I'm going to do what Megan's describing. I'm going to go outside on my couch with a blanket, light the fire, have a hot beverage, and just, soak into my moment of home. I love that. So when you were walking us through earlier your timeline, you hit on some big life milestones that I want to explore with you. How did you meet your husband?
Yeah, we met at work. So I started my career in public relations. So I was at a large global PR firm right out of college, and my husband worked there as well. So we were kind of in the same friend circle. We ultimately got close because we did a Tough Mudder together. So nothing.
Tell people what that is.
Oh my gosh. So Tough Mudder is just a half marathon of grueling obstacles. So no better way to bond with people than like trauma bonding. But it's literally in sort of mud and ice, and there's even like live wires involved. It's wild, but super, super, super fun. So we were on a Tough Mudder team together, had the opportunity to train together. So he's very into just, working out and athletics. And so at the time, that I was too. I am still a little bit. But that was how we kind of met each other. He promptly after we met took a job in Miami. So we actually only had a few weeks together in Chicago before he moved away. And we spent that entire couple of weeks together. He went off to Miami and we maintained our relationship long distance for the first year. And then he moved back and proposed, and the rest is history. So
wow. Man, I'm putting myself into his brain doing the Tough Mudder. He probably looked over at you. He's like, this girl can hang. Like we could probably go through a lot of life together.
Yeah.
What an amazing way to observe someone's like tenacity and hardship. And I did a Tough Mudder with my siblings. It's no joke.
It's no joke.
We did ours in New York, and I think it was November. My brother and I wore Speedos, and it was freezing out. But we were trying to be hardcore. My sister's in a swimsuit. And the live wire part, we're going through the live wire. My brother's right in front of me crawling, and he gets knocked out for a minute. I just see his body go limp, and I'm like, bro. Yeah. That race really puts you to the test.
I wouldn't sign up for the live wire again. I had a similar experience to your brother. So I feel his pain for sure.
You're in Aspen, or maybe Italy, and your phone pings with a freeze warning back in Austin. Panic? Nope. You have Loyal. We're already there, wrapping the pipes and checking the perimeter. Whether you're home or away, we are the eyes and ears of your estate. Global freedom, local support.
Well, amidst that beautiful way you met your husband, you talked about initial career trajectory. Yeah. Tell us about what you were up to, what drew you into that, and then you made a pretty big pivot. I'd love to hear more of that story.
Yeah, so I stayed in the PR world for over a decade. Specifically, I was working in crisis management. So anything from, food recalls to plane crashes to just executive bad behavior. If you saw it in the news, I probably worked on it in some capacity. So super, super fun and exciting job. I mean, I'm like an adrenaline junkie in that sense. Like I absolutely loved the late nights and the 911 call and the just being in the mix with such seasoned leaders. I think for me, it was just a fast pass to being exposed to some of the best in the business by nature of, what levels of decision makers are involved when it comes to crises. And so I had the time of my life. I thought it was fantastic. I ended up leading a global crisis team for a firm in Austin, as well as leading the office here. And, in my view, that was going to take me to retirement. Like I never wanted to do anything else. I was having a blast. Enter having 2 children. Kids will kind of definitely help you reprioritize kind of your life and your values. And so when my kids were young, I was working on a particular massive client who, we'll just say, morally felt less aligned. There were some kind of ethical decisions they were making. It was an online platform that involved child safety in many ways. And so as a young mom, I mean, it was just, I couldn't not take home this work. There was other clients where I could kind of go home, log off and set it aside. And this one was just weighing very heavily on me. And it just became one of those things where I was like, if I'm not going to be spending time with my kids, I better be doing something that absolutely lights me up and that I feel really positively about. And so there was a weekend where it was just, things were very stressful. I kind of had my like come to Jesus moment. And a lot of that was actually my husband recognizing in me like, hey, you're like a shell of a person right now. Like this used to light you up. It's not happening. Let's have a conversation about it. And so to his credit, he kind of was the one to, from the outside in, name it and say, we need to make a change. And we were very methodical about it. I'm not a person who just is super like spontaneous about life decisions. And so I kind of put my corporate PR hat on and we literally did what I call now like our life planning exercise. And so that was kind of a pivotal moment where we sat down, went through this exercise that I kind of put together, this like workshop, if you will, and figured out what we were going to do next. And at the end of that, it became clear that real estate might be a good fit. We had been doing like our own investments and I thought maybe I'll just, manage this part of our lives and that'll be, something I take care of. And I never really thought about working with clients, but with, over a decade in client service, that was something I felt like I was missing. And I ended up just going right into residential real estate, which I've been doing for the last few years.
Wow. I want to just reflect back a couple of things I heard in that transition that I really appreciate. One, when you were in that role in crisis communications, I see you as really being a steady hand to the leaders in a time of real stress and being a presence of peace for them. And man, what an unbelievable value to provide a client. I really appreciate the awareness that you had of your morals, your values, what you were about, and recognizing where there might be a misalignment and then making the bold decision to make a pivot from that. That's a scary and daunting thing and a risk, but that conviction to what's important to you, really drove that. And then your husband played a beautiful role of kind of being a mirror to you and saying, hey, here's what I'm seeing. And I think, that's a component of an ideal partnership. Yeah. And one of the beauties of marriage, I'm not there yet, but that's such a wonderful part of that unique relationship. And then you went through this really thoughtful exercise, and I want to hear more about that. That's kind of a rare thing. Talk about this, planning exercise that you referenced.
Yeah. And I, when I think about it now, I'm like, how did that really come together? But I've codified it now and shared it with other friends and people who are at these pivotal moments and just I've always been a counselor. That's what I've done. And so being able to share that and help people kind of make their same decisions or, be intentional about their choices has been really cool. But yeah, so it was a 3-part exercise. We set some ground rules. The ground rules were essentially like going back to what we said before, we had to set the scene first. So for us, that was making a couple Manhattans, getting an album that we liked on, lighting candles, just making sure it felt very comfortable and safe to have a conversation that I honestly had no idea what direction it was going to go. We also had to promise that the other person was not going to be a naysayer. You could not sort of bring the reality to the conversation. You had to just basically accept and say yes and ask pressing questions.
Yes, and the famous
yes and
improv game.
So that was kind of like, that was our sort of the ground rules to start. The first part of the exercise was basically, if you could not fail, what would you be doing? And that was in any category. So in work, in your relationships, in, where you're living, like if you could not fail, what would it look like? And the other person just basically took down the notes, listening for, what were the themes and what questions you might have, and just kind of pressing further to get really deep on what that might look like. The next part of it was to basically go through a sensory exercise of describing in immense detail what the perfect day, weekend, week might look like in this life where you cannot fail. And so that's everything from what did it taste like? What did it smell like? What are the sounds? What do you see? And just getting really, really sort of beyond just kind of the idea of it and starting to really kind of feel it and actualize it. And then the last part was just, let's look back and assess what we've got so far here. What steps can we take, or what is happening in our lives now that is at least pointing in the direction of this life? Like, obviously, we're not going to be like, let's rip it all up and start this version of it. But are there things that are happening in our day-to-day, or can happen in our day-to-day, that at the very least are pointing in the right direction? And we had this moment looking at what our ideal situation was. And it wasn't like, oh, we want to go, I mean, this was probably in there, but go live in Italy and, have this fantastical life where neither of us work. It was, we want to have family rituals that, are consistent. We want to have dinner with the kids at the table. We want to, travel once a year. We want to just it was very basic. Some of it was, I want 10 acres and livestock. It was just very, specific in that circumstance. But we realized that most of what we were doing in our day-to-day wasn't even like, the arrow wasn't even going there. And in particular in my career. And so we ended that conversation and my husband said, you got to quit your job. Like that, we're looking at the sort of the map and this is going the wrong direction. So again, all credit to him, because I don't know that I could be the stronger person to say that to him and be as supportive as he was. I mean, we were not necessarily in a position to be just like landing on one income. And, it was a huge, huge potential shift, but that's what we did. And so I had been dabbling in interior design on the side as well. It's just something that I'm passionate about. And so we were like, let's find a way to merge these things together and get you your real estate license. And it was off to the races from there.
Man, as a true goal person and a goal appreciator myself, I really admire your process. And some things I noticed about it. One, setting the stage, with your husband, of like, let's create a little environment that unlocks some, creative thinking and possibilities conversations. So your thoughtfulness is setting the stage there, setting the table, and then removing the barriers to what's possible and just open-ended dreaming. And I think it's so cool to have the other person just listening there and, no commentary, no opinions, but just listening. Like, what a powerful connective exercise. And you could probably do that in any relationship. Yeah. Friends could do that together. Business partners. Love that, husband and wife doing that. And then just the mutual encouragement that could happen after, and the feedback of, you both know each other well. And and then the way that you took a risk together of recognizing that it was the end of your season with that job and opening up possibility for what's next. So,
okay, the stonemason sent a PDF. The plumber wants a check. Wait, who is Dave on Venmo? Is that the woodworker or the tool rental? Oh my gosh. Stop playing forensic accountant with your own renovation. With Loyal, you get one consolidated invoice. We manage the vendors and the paperwork. One bill, zero confusion. Loyal Home Concierge.
take us into your business now. And you've been so thoughtful about how you want to show up for the market, how you want to show up for your clients. What are the pieces of what you do?
Yeah. So and just to state it, I love my job. I don't think when I made the switch, I would find something that sort of scratched the itch in the same way that my last job did. But what I do now is essentially so much of the same energy. It's a lot of being the calm, cool, collected person who can help guide someone through a very potentially stressful situation. And so where before I was, like the glorified therapist to CEOs, I now just do that for everyone. And I've loved just being so connected in with my work and my clients. I kind of joke with people like, once we're in relationship, you can't quit me. I just like, we're stuck now. And that's how I've sort of run my entire business. So I run a very, very relational business, very relationship based. It's a lot of one-on-one time. It's a lot of just really getting to the heart of what people's hopes, dreams, and goals are. So going back to the life planning exercise, I don't take my clients through that in any formal sense, but all of that is what I'm getting after as we work together. So whether that's, someone who is going to sell their home to move up to the next thing, or is trying to downsize to, travel more, or we're just doing an interior design project and want to make a space that people feel really creative and awesome in. It's just getting to the heart of what people's vision is for their lives and what that day-to-day looks like. And so it's really kind of been something that I've come back to. So my residential real estate business, I joined real estate in historically the worst market you possibly ever could, especially in Austin. We've been in a downturn for almost 4 years.
It was your Tough Mudder moment in real estate.
100%.
You're like, I want more of this, Josh.
I want more of this. Yeah, no, I absolutely wouldn't have it any other way. I think cutting my teeth on this work in an industry in a downturn has made me so much stronger. I'm learning the hard way. And I've been really successful. And I feel like that I'm just very blessed to being from here, have a really amazing community who's willing to refer me and send me like-minded people and really know sort of how I can help people and trust that. I think coming from a corporate background and being from Austin, I bring sort of a different sort of elevated level and way of doing business that people have really appreciated. So it's been a fantastic ride so far. I've been crushing my goals. And so now it's kind of just figuring out how I continue to elevate that experience. My sort of going back to the hosting and that sort of through line, that is very much a part of what I bring to the table in real estate. So whether that's, when someone decides to list their home, I've got a signature scent that I require everyone sort of have in the home that I just believe is it smells expensive. It smells like you're on vacation. It really just kind of sets the tone when people walk in. I am sort of non-negotiable on staging. I think that presentation and being able to help people visualize who are maybe not that creative, help people sort of visualize what their lives could look like in a home. And then, same with all my clients, you get loved on the entire way. So there's surprise gifts and champagne and all kinds of things throughout the whole process. And then I really like to make things personal to folks. And so that's sort of how I run it.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. And any big decisions or milestones related to the home, it's stressful.
Yeah.
And so much of yourself is incorporated in that. And so I appreciate that same steady hand, you brought to CEOs, you're now bringing to folks in that, whether it's a transaction or maybe an interior design project. I love the use of thoughtful questions, your active listening, the empathy. It's clear you've put a lot of thought into how you want your business to show up in the world and how you want to bring value to people. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you touched on your community being a big support to you. Paint us a picture of life in Austin now, family, communities you love.
Yeah. What I've loved, I think, about being in this business is I haven't had to separate my business life and my personal life. They are super, super enmeshed. And that's everything from, the events I host to, I host multiple events a year. I do an Easter egg hunt in my neighborhood. I do a big Christmas party. I do a women's Vino and vision boards event. So I just love, love, love hosting, and I love being a connector of people. And so as I sort of collect clients and friends throughout the year, I find ways to kind of bring them all together and introduce them to each other, and just kind of find where that connective tissue is. When I've got new clients who have moved from out of state, I love being able to just kind of bring them into the fold right away. And, some relationships flourish after that, connections that I've been able to help make, some don't, but I think there's just so much beauty in bringing people together in that way. And so events is kind of where I would say most of my sort of community activity happens. And that's been super, super fun. And it's good for business. It's just a fantastic way to stay in touch with people and make them feel appreciated. And so it's just kind of built right in seamlessly.
I love that. So let's say, hypothetical, someone comes along and says, Megan, you are a gifted event planner and host. I want to back you. Here's a blank check for your dream event.
Oh my gosh.
To just knock it out of the park. What does that look like?
Man, I feel like I've thrown some of those events already where I'm like, I just want to do it again. So I had, I'm a big fan of oysters, and I'm a big fan of rosé. So I've done a basically Catalina wine mixer event before, and it was so much fun. But I think one thing that I really appreciate and love doing with events is finding ways to also have it be charitable and a give back moment. And so I've had the pleasure of working with a couple of philanthropies in Austin. And so, for example, I just did a pickleball brewery event for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And so I love just finding ways where people can still have a great time, have a couple drinks, but feel like they're really kind of giving back to the community as well. So I didn't totally answer your question, but something that kind of brings those things together would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I think you can't go wrong if oysters are involved.
Yeah,
so
well, there you go.
I fully endorse that. What are some pieces of Austin you're really enjoying right now? Could be places, favorite spots.
Yeah, I've always been such a fan of West Austin and the Hill Country. I grew up in the Bee Cave area. I think just seeing the immense growth that it's had is awesome, but it's still retained this sort of nice small town outside of Austin community. I love Dripping Springs, Fredericksburg, sort of all of the nature that comes with that. And so that's why we've always gravitated towards that side of town. So that's kind of my home and my favorite spot to spend time. It's such a good place for families. I have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so anywhere where they can be free range children and we can sit down and have a quiet moment, I'm a big fan of.
Oh, that's awesome. And what a way to grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up running around our neighborhood, didn't have that much land, but like being able to check out a vacant lot across the street, build a fort, really enriching to childhood.
Yeah.
Saturday mornings are for building forts, not waiting for the cable guy. You promised yourself you'd be a more present parent this year. Let us help you keep that promise. We handle the house maintenance, and you can handle the memories. Be the parent, not the property manager. Loyal Home Concierge.
So earlier you described the thoughtfulness that your mom and you have when it comes to hosting and thinking about these unseen details. If someone's new to hosting, what are some practicals or some first steps that really encompass the art of hosting and creating that experience that people remember and feel loved by?
Absolutely. So music for me is a non-negotiable. So I think there is nothing more unsettling than being in a silent space with people. And so even if it's just a little bit of background music, it goes such a long way to really make something feel like a little bit more lively and engaging before people are even in there kind of chit-chatting. So that is one of my non-negotiables. I would also say finding ways to make things personal. I love a personal surprise, whether it's, a certain gift or a takeaway or something that shows that you've really thought about how that person is going to experience the event. I think, obviously you can't do that every time, but in those moments you can. That's just, people just do not forget it and hold on to that. And then I would say, it sounds so simple, food, of course, out and available, but being ready before folks arrive. So there is, you hate to walk in somewhere where you feel like you've arrived too early or people aren't ready for you. So I am ready, table set, ready to go well before people show up, just to have that very, welcoming experience and being able to participate. I think another place people kind of lose the plot is if you haven't done the preparation in advance, you're going to find yourself working the entire event and not spending time and enjoying people's company. And that's such a, it's just a bummer. You've put all this thought into an event. You want to be able to enjoy it too. And people are going to want to spend that time with you. And so anything you can do, whether it's, outsourcing things so that you don't have to worry about it, or just having the preparation in advance, just makes it so that you can actually participate too.
Man, those are such good, at the ready tips. And one that is not commonly thought of is kind of the why behind being prepared in advance. And I think everyone can think of a moment where you walk into a party and someone is hurrying around getting the party ready. You feel like an imposition a little bit. Like it kind of creates your initial experience.
Yeah.
Is a little bit of a weird sense. And so, having everything dialed, just creates that smooth initial landing and sense of, feeling welcomed. And I love that.
Yeah.
So you have a vibrant business, you have kiddos at a very energetic age. There's a lot going on. What are some rhythms that keep you grounded?
Yeah.
And then things that help you recharge?
Yeah. It sounds like a stereotype, but I am such a morning person. And so I feel like the ability to have that moment of quiet before all the chaos is super important for me. When I made that career transition and had the opportunity to do the life planning exercise, it was also when I sort of found mindfulness and found, just that school of thought, if you can call it that. It was not something I had thought of as a daily practice. It wasn't something I was listening to podcasts about. And now after that moment, I found I needed something to ground this change. You go from having an Outlook calendar dictating how you spend your days to just waking up in the morning and not knowing where it's going to take you. And so I needed to create some rituals. I read Atomic Habits. I did all just started to think about how to build a morning that set everything else up for success. And so everything I do that's, I would say, considered sort of a rhythm or a ritual kind of happens in the morning. I love, burning some Palo Santo. I like, having my coffee. Again, it's music and candles and taking a moment just to, outline what I'm thankful for, and then I go into the day. So that's definitely something that keeps me grounded. We've not always been great as a family of establishing what the family rituals look like. And I think we've been much more intentional about that, even just in the last, 6 months. When things get busy for work, I find a lot of the things fall off. And so being able to come back to what do we want this to, we've been doing Taco Tuesday. It's so simple, but just the kids get excited about it and they thrive on rhythm and ritual and repeatable practices. And so I think seeing how that's benefited our family positively has just reinforced building those as a family unit as well, not just having our individual sort of habits that we work with.
I can really appreciate that. And, being a student of healthy home lives, a ritual doesn't have to be complicated, like Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
But there's a compounding effect of when you do that consistently, maybe it's, every week, over the course of years, it's a rich, vibrant tradition, and it's so powerful for the family members, and it's, something that brings a smile to your face when you're telling other people about it. But it doesn't have to be, anything complicated to start. It's kind of like a conundrum. I think that's a barrier for folks, is that it's easy to overcomplicate and think, if we're going to form a new tradition, it's got to be multifaceted and it's got to be something complex, but quite not the case.
No, don't overcomplicate it. It can be very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we start to wrap today, how can people find you?
Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram. So it's at Meg Mrazek. I have a very complicated last name, so I'm sure it'll be in the notes and we can send it along. But at Meg Mrazek on Instagram is a great place to connect. And then, yeah, I'm very reachable as far as, my website, meganmrazek.com. And I just love connecting with people. So if I'm not just waiting for, home sales and let's go find something to buy. It's very much, if you want to just connect in Austin or even virtually and just chit chat, that's my favorite.
I love that. Give us a spelling of that just in case.
Yeah. So it's last name is Mrazek, Mrazek. Megan spelled the simple way, Megan.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah.
This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Austin Community Capital. This show is a celebration of the spirit of Austin, Texas, honoring our past, engaging our present, and building our future together. If this conversation sparked something in you, a new idea, a feeling of connection, or just a good laugh, pass it on. Share this episode with a fellow Austinite or a loved one who needs to hear it. Let's keep weaving this fabric of community together. This show is proudly presented by Loyal Home Concierge. At Loyal, we believe that a healthy, thriving city starts within the four walls of your home. We are passionate about supporting overextended executives, the moms and dads who do it all, and the couples who take life by storm. Because we know that when your home life is supported, you are free to support the ones who matter most.
Your kids, your wife.
Whether you need a proactive manager for your home or a creative problem solver for your next big adventure, we are here to help you design a life of intention. LoyalHomeConcierge.com. Let's make life a little more beautiful together. Stay loyal to your community, and we'll see you next time.